Hello guys, once again it's Matt and today we have another video. Let's thank our members first. Invictus, we have Crazy Bull and Interceptor 35. Thank you for helping out. Thank you my patrons. Thank you all the members. Subscribe and be a member or a patron if you want to help a little bit more on the channel, okay? So today we have a continuation of the videos that I did talking about the lines and the futures of the line, you know. So we talked about the Soviets, we talked about the US, then we talked about the Germans, but I actually wanted to make one for the Swedish ones because obviously we are getting the Finnish tech tree, sub tree on the Swedish Air Force, and I really wanted to just make a video about it, talking about the aircraft itself that can be added during this Swedish Air Force and the other Scandinavian Air Forces. So my idea here is to actually make the Swedish basically tech tree into a Scandinavian one because it would make sense and it would make Sweden actually have a very large line, you know. As you see here, I managed to put 6 lines over here. So yeah, I mean 6 lines, it's one more than the Soviets and the US, so it's pretty good, pretty good. Obviously, we would have a bit of copy paste, but there's some different stuff also, and there is the argument that do we really want to add an F100, an F5, an Mig-21, and a Draken in the same tech tree? I mean, it's the best of all the worlds, you know. But I just think that it doesn't really matter, you know. Maybe in simulator it will matter a little bit more, but still, I think the Scandinavian tech tree can be on both sides because it was kind of neutral in the Cold War. Obviously, tending a little bit more today and on the Western side of things, but still. So in simulator, it can even be put it in one side or the other, and with the skins and stuff, you can actually have a proper line, you know. So let's talk about. Let's start with the right to the left, you know. So let's start with the Finnish line, and we talk a little bit of the F86D here, and then we go from here. Okay, so the Finnish line, we already saw some of the vehicles that are going to be added, like the Vampire, like the J34, like the MiG-21 bis. But there are many others. Obviously, I'm talking about Cold War here, so mostly jets, okay? Obviously, we would have a lot of props as well, so we can fill the upper parts of the Swedish tech tree as well. So, obviously, you know. But the Finnish tech tree started with the Vampire, I think, in the jet part, you know. Then we would have first the Fuga Magister. So it is kind of a very bad jet, but it is not supposed to be that good. It is a trainer. And I don't even think that it maybe doesn't even have the proper performance to be in game, to be honest. It is going to be very slow, but it is kind of faster than some of the other jets like the SK60 and stuff like that. Not the SK60, but there is other jets that are slower than it with a properly low BR. I mean, yeah. It has a problem of guns, you know. Basically, it has only two 7.62 guns, you know. But I think it could carry gun pods and it could carry bombs and stuff like that. But as I said, it is a trainer. It is a very famous one. That's why I actually wanted to put it in the Finnish tree. Maybe it can be an event vehicle, but I would think that it's very cool to have the Fuga because it is a very well known aircraft in Europe, you know. And it is a very loved aircraft for the pilots as well. So I really think we should have a Magister here. Then we would go for the Vampire, obviously the Vampire that it is coming, the Mark 52. Then we go for the Hawk Mark 51, or the Hawk Mark 66. The problem with the Hawk is depends on the ammunition and the missiles and stuff like that it would use, basically. If it is the Hawk Mark 51, it would be pretty alright, to be honest, if it doesn't have M9Ls or anything like that. At like 8.0, 8.3 maybe, or 8.7, depends on the variant and depends on the armament. But I think the Hawk should be here as well, you know. The Hawk is a very common trainer in the UK, you know, and some other nations also use it. So it would be pretty alright, I think, to see that, right? Then we would go for the Gnat. So yeah, the Mark 1. It is a very fast aircraft. 1,100 and something kilometers per hour is the max. And it has an amazing climbing speed. In at least in some sources, it said like almost 100 meters per second. I don't really know if I should trust that, but still, it is going to be a very similar aircraft to like a Swift, but better, you know. So it is an aircraft that is very, very fast, has the 18 cannons and stuff like that, and it would be very, very cool to see as well. It's an aircraft that should be added in the UK line, and then also in the Finnish sub 3 as well. Then we have the J34. Obviously, it would have many skins, you know, but it is basically the same aircraft as the Hunter, but it is the Hunter F4, okay? We have kind of a problem here. For example, the Hunter F51 also, it is the same aircraft. You know, they are both the Hunter F4. So I don't know, maybe just one of them is added, and then it has like 3 skins. So the Swedish one, the Finnish one, and the Denmark one. So Danish one, sorry. And then we could have it. It is basically a mix. It's in between the F1 and the F6. So it is inferior to the F6 performance in the engine, but it is superior to the F1. It could carry missiles, as you saw in the dev server, so AIM-9Bs and stuff like that. So pretty cool, right? Then we have the F86D. I think it's the Danish that used it, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But it is an aircraft that it is problematic. I think it should come to the US as well. It doesn't have cannons, apparently. It is basically the same aircraft as the F86K, but it doesn't have cannons, and beyond, and instead of that, it has the proximity fuse rocket pods. I don't know if it even has the version for the proximity fuse, but a friend of mine told me that they used a proximity fuse. Also, together with 2 AIM-9s, it could be an interesting event vehicle or premium, but it doesn't really, it's not that good, I think, you know. It's a problematic aircraft to add to the Tech 3, I think, because it doesn't have cannons and doesn't have good missiles and stuff like that. But it's still one that should be in game for the US and for the Swedish, maybe, you know. There are some aircraft here that you can consider to put in here as well. I just put it on the line because yes, but it doesn't really need to, right, you know. Then we would go for the Mig-21 F13. The Finnish actually used it. Same aircraft as the Russians, you know, the Soviets. R3Ss, no radar, just the gun sight radar, rangefinder, you know. So yeah. And then we would go for some of the Drakings. So we had 3 Drakings. I think it's the 3 ones that we should see in the Finnish sub 3. First of all, we have the Saab 335BS, which is basically an old J35B, you know. So I don't think, maybe shouldn't be added here. It maybe should just be here. But it is basically the J35B, which is a more advanced J35A with a better radar, different afterburner and stuff like that for the Finnish. So yeah, but basically it is the same aircraft. It was actually old Swedish aircraft that were sold for the Finland, you know. So I don't know if it should be added here. If it is added here, it should be in a bracket for the other ones, just to be not that much of a grind. But to be honest, I think it should be in the Swedish line here. And then we go directly to the Saab 35FS, which is basically the old J35 F1s that the Swedish used, sold for Finland. So it would basically mean that it is a more advanced J35D, you know. It is kind of the same aircraft, you know, but it has a new afterburner than the D, a bulged cockpit, and a little bit more stuff. And the F1 especially has the addition of the IRST, you know. So yeah, that would help a little bit as well. It could carry the, you know, the normal stuff. For example, the AIM-9, would carry the AIM-9Bs and stuff like that. And it would probably carry more advanced stuff as well, a little bit, you know, not by much, but yeah. But it is basically the same aircraft as the D, but with a better engine, basically, and IRST and a budget cockpit. Then we have the Saab 35XS, which is a different version. It is basically kind of a, you know, a more advanced Danish version, not Danish, Finnish J35s F, you know. So it is specially built for the Finnish Air Force. So this one, it needs to be here, you know. I just think that we need a bridge between the F13 and the MiG-21 Bs. But this one would carry basically you know, it's a better Draken F, so for the Finnish. So it would carry the IRST, better, you know, engine than the D variant. Also, it would basically carry flares and chaff, so that would make it very, very good at top tier. It depends on the missile that you get, you know. You use the R13M, so I put it on the 11.3, so if he uses the R13M1, for example, I didn't confirm that if he was the one, but still, if you use the one, it would probably be 11.0, 11.3 because of the chaff and flares and the performance of this aircraft, but we don't know. So it depends on the missiles. The missiles will dictate basically the BR of it, 10.7 or 11.0 or even 11.3, you know. And then obviously we would have the Mig-21 Beast that we are going to get in this patch. So the Mig-21 Beast is basically the same as the Soviet one, you know. It would carry R60s and R13s. I don't know about R60Ms, so it depends on the BR for that as well. If it did carry the R60M, I doubt that it would, to be honest, because the R60M was like, they sold the R60M for packed members only in 1982. So I really doubt that they sold R60Ms for Finland. But you never know. So it might carry, it might not. The only confirmation that I have is the normal R13M and the R60 normal. So if he only gets that, he will be 11.0 like the Russian one. Then we have the F-18C, obviously the Hornet. I put an X here just because, you know, it is an aircraft that it depends on the top tier that it will be when it's added. It's not going to be added anytime soon, I think, but it's not too far from it right now as well. I think it's going to be at least a year until we see the C variant of the F-18, but still, it is going to be an aircraft that it is going to be amazing. APG-65, Sparrows, AIM-9s. Later, you can receive the AIM-120 and better stuff like that. So yeah, it will be the top of the line of the Finnish Air Force, especially because it is a very special aircraft due to having a different, basically it's a different aircraft. I mean, it's built technically inside Finland, so it's pretty good, right? Then we go for the Sweden part, you know, the Swedish part. So the SK-60, obviously you already have it. Then we get a Finnish IL-28. I think we should get one because Sweden doesn't have a proper bomber at this BR. Then the Saab 105G. Basically, these are the ones that we should get it, and it's done. Then the attacker line. Obviously, we already have this A21RB, A28B, A29B, A32, then the AJ37, and then after that, the AJS37. I think it should be a more close to the top tier attacker, you know. It would carry the RB74, only two of them, but still, we could carry the two RB74. I think it could carry flares and chaff together with the Mavericks as well. So we would have a better payload options. And having AIM-9Ls, it's pretty amazing as well. So we would be a better attacker for top tier. I couldn't confirm if they actually had a more advanced Maverick, but they have more advanced anti-ship missiles and stuff like that. So yeah, it doesn't change much from the AJ37, but it would be nice to have the better missiles and maybe the better Mavericks and stuff like that. Then we go for the major fighter line. So we have a lot of aircraft here. So the J-21RA, obviously already here. J-29A, the Tunen. Then we get to the J-33. It is basically what the Sea Venom is. Okay, so it would be a Venom, but with a radar and probably two places as well. So yeah, very interesting aircraft. It is kind of bad, the Sea Venom. So it's not a very good aircraft in general. But maybe it is, this version is going to be a little bit better. I don't know. I couldn't confirm the exact differences between the Sea Venom and this, other than one not being able to land in a carrier. But beyond that, it's a very, very good aircraft, I think, if used in the right way, you know. Then obviously the J-29F, J-32B. Then we start with the Drakens as well. So we would first, as I said, probably if the Saab 35BS would be to be added, I think the J35B should be added here with the Finnish skin, to be honest, you know. So no Saab 35BS here, and then the J35B here. That's probably what I would guess it's better, you know. So yeah, as I said, it is basically the same aircraft as the J35A, you know, but it has new afterburners and basically it's a little bit better on the radar as well. Not by much, but it is a little bit better as well, you know. You would use the same missiles and stuff like that. Initially, he didn't even use missiles, but later he got them, just like the J-35A. So yeah. Then obviously the J-35D, we already know, and it's already a good aircraft. Then the J-35J, okay? This is the ultimate Draken. So it is a 1985, basically 1987 version of the J-35. It has basically just one cannon. I forgot to mention that the Fs, so the FS, the XS, the XS, and the J, they didn't have two cannons, only one cannon, okay? They use the J, we use the IRST because it's a more modern version of the Fs that we talked about it before, you know. It has IRST, it can carry two more AIM-9s, so it could carry technically 6 AIM-9s, so pretty good. And he was able to use, all of these were able to use the AIM-4 Falcon missile, which would be kind of limited, but still it would be kind of fun to see in game, you know. I think he should be added anyway. So yeah. I didn't confirm if he had flares, so this would be the limiting factor, or if he used the RB-74. If he did use the RB-74 and he had flares, it probably would be a top tier aircraft, 11.3. If he doesn't get any of that, just the RB-24Js and no flares or chaff, it would be around the same BR as the D, you know, 10.7. But if he did get flares and he didn't have the RB-74, just the RB-24J, would be probably 11.0, you know. So it would basically means that it's a faster D variant with better missiles, more missiles, basically the same missiles, but it could carry the AIM-4, but more missiles, IRST, as I said, and better afterburners and radars and stuff like that, you know. Then we get to the vegans. Obviously, we have the JA-37C at 11.0. I think, especially the JA-37C, man, we already have kind of a 1993, 94, 5 version of the Yacht Vegan, you know. This version that has flares is already from like early 90s. So why not just add the RB-74 and add it to 11.3, you know? That would suffice for now, being the top tier of Sweden, to be honest, together with the Mig-21 and maybe the F-16s that we are going to talk about it later. And yeah, we would be fine with it. And then later, the JA-37D, when AIM-120s and stuff like that started to be added, we can add the JA-37D, you know. Even after the gripping were to be added, I mean, we can be adding the JA-37D, you know. So it would carry basically 4 RB-99s together with 2 RB-74, so it would be a very effective aircraft. It would be similar to like a very late MiG-23 MLD with R-727s, you know, the 90s MiG-23-98, for example. It would be comparable to that with R-77s and R-27s and R-73s and stuff like that. So it would be the ultimate vegan when it's added. Probably would be fair to put it in a bracket to be a less problematic grind, you know. And then obviously the last aircraft, the JAS 39A, which is the Gripen. Obviously, a lot of people are asking for this aircraft right now. But no, man, it's not coming right now. It only used the radar missiles were only the AIM-120s onwards. So yeah, it's not gonna come anytime soon. The Gripen will take a while to be here. It is a very powerful aircraft, even the A variant. And after that, we can have like 3 other variants that we can see. But I just think that for now, just talking that the Gripen would be here and downwards from there as well, you know. Obviously, a lot of these nations would even carry the F-35. For example, the Finnish one, Finnish Sub 3 would have the F-35 after the F-18 AC, but I'm not going to talk too much about that because it's too far away in the future, right? Then the 2 lines that I proposed, the main lines that I propose here, so the Danish and the Nordic, or the Norway Sub 3, you know. So first of all, the Danish, so we would start with Meteors, as you see, the Meteor NF11, which is an earlier version of the NF13 that we already have in the Israeli tech tree. Then we would have the Meteor F4 and F8, 8.0 aircraft. Then the F-84G, you know. I think the F-84G might not be here, might be in the Norway Sub 3, just because the meters would already suffice in this tier 5, and then to have the Danish camo as well in here, you know. Then obviously the Hunter F51, as I said, it is the same as the Hunter F4, so the same as the J34. So if it's added here, I don't think we should have any other line being the same aircraft. Just add another skin, and it's less grind for the guy that is grinding in the tree, right? Then obviously the F100F RD. So I put it the F100F here because it is the B-placed version. So it would be a little bit different, you know. But it can be the D variant, just the normal D variant, you know. The F would be just a little bit different, a little bit heavier, you know. So maybe, and it even has like only 2 guns instead of 4. So it might be like a 9.0, just to be different, you know, with just the AIM-9Bs and bombs and stuff. So I don't know, maybe something like that. Here we have another example of an aircraft that can be in both lines. So I would probably choose the Norway line, you know, to be added, the F104G. I think, and then add 2 skins, you know, one from the Danish and one for the Norway. And it's fine, you know, it would be all right, I think. But yeah, the F104G is the same as every other F104G. Don't know if they used flares or chaff or anything like that, but it is a pretty all right aircraft to have it at 10.7, 10.3, depending on the ammunition and missiles and stuff. Then we would have the A35XD, which is one of the most fun ones. It's a Draken, you know, but it's basically the J35F that we talked about it later, being a more modernized D variant. So it has the better engine and stuff like that, but it is a bit different. It is supposed to be a fighter bomber variant. So it doesn't even have a radar in some sources, so I couldn't confirm that. I would not put my hand on the fire for that, you know. So I really don't know if it had a radar or not. But in general, it is just a fighter bomber version of the Draken, so very cool. You would have the 10 pylons for air-to-ground role, so it is a very good air-to-ground aircraft. And it also could carry the AIM-9N, which is a better version of the AIM-9P or AIM-9J, you know. So it is technically just with a better tracking rate and stuff like that. Technically use the AIM-9N2, if I'm not mistaken, so I have to check what that is exactly, but still, it is basically that, just a little bit better, you know. So it would have very cool missiles, and it would have flares and chaff. So as I said about this one, if he got the flares and chaff and the same missiles, it is 11.0, so it's the same. So if he has the same amount, I mean, he has 4 missiles. I think he has 4 missiles, right? I mean, he might have more, but it's difficult to find information sometimes about this kind of a specific thing, you know. So, but let's just think about 4 AIM-9Ns, you know, together with flares and chaff. Yeah, 11.0, I think it's a very good BR for it, even if it doesn't have a radar, you know. Other thing that is cool about this aircraft is that it can carry rocket pods from the Americans, if I'm not mistaken, and bullpups. So it is a proper ground attack aircraft, you know, from the... Yeah, I mean, bullpups are not the most amazing thing ever, but still, it is interesting at Draken using bullpups, right? Then we have the final aircraft that we would see here. Both the Denmark and Norway used from the F-16A Block 5 to the Block 15, to be honest, you know, even more advanced variants than that. But I just think that we shouldn't have 2 exactly the same F-16s, you know. So for the Norway Tech 3, which would be smaller, as you see, we can have the initial Block 5. And then for the Danish Tech 3, because we have a more grindy way over to here, you would have the more advanced ones. So the price would be a little bit better, you know. So yeah, the F-16A Block 15 would have the Sparrows and AIM-9Ls and stuff like that. And in the future, it can even have the ADF packages and OCU packages that could carry the AIM-120 and stuff like that. So it is just a very cool aircraft to have in this top of the line. As I put it on every single one of them, the X means basically it's going to be a top tier when it's added. So 11.7, 11.3, 12.0, 12.3, I don't know. I doubt that we will see past beyond 11.7 for a long time, so yeah. basically that would mean that, you know. So yeah, F16, nothing to talk too much about it, just a very cool aircraft. For the Norway Tech Tree, as I said, probably the F84 would be on the Norway Tech Tree. I think it would be better. Then obviously after we would have the F86F. I couldn't confirm the block that they actually had, but it doesn't matter too much. If you use the missile, 9.0. If you didn't, now 8.7. You know, that's basically it. If it is a F25, F35, F whatever, F30, F, you know, I doubt that they use the F40, but yeah, if any version of these are used, 8.7. If uses missile, 9.0. Then we would go for the F86K, same aircraft that we have in other tech trees, in the Italian, Germans, and the French tech tree. So 2 AIM-9s, 9.0, the AIM-24 cannons, and yeah. Then we would go for the F-104. As I said, probably just one of these tech trees should get the F-104, but still, it is pretty interesting to see both of them. Then obviously the F5A, so same as in the Chinese tech tree, 2 AIM-9s, 11.0, some flares in chef, same F5 as that we already kind of don't like fighting. And then obviously the last one, the F-16A Block 5, being an early version of the F-16A to be like two different variants, you know. I know it's kind of weird, but I mean, after this, we would have just the F-35s. So yeah, this is kind of the end of the line. So we would just make, I mean, I know the point of view of a player, it would be bad this, because you have to grind both trees. But for the, I mean, you gotta give something to gauging as well, right? So yeah, that would make sense to have two variants, because if not, it would have the block 5 in here and block 5 in here and the block 15 in here and block 15 in here, and it would be kind of boring that the two lines have the same aircraft. So yeah, I just think that would make sense. But I know a lot of people will disagree with me on that. But the block 5 would be just AIM-9s, you know, normal AIM-9s and AIM-9Ls, AIM-9P4s, flares in chaff, and basically that's it. You know, some bombs and stuff like that, but not too much as well. But basically this is it, guys. I'm going to, I will think that if I leave this on the description for you guys to mess around a little bit and take a look. But yeah, it's me that I made I made the list, and I actually did. I mean, it was a long job to do this. So make sure to subscribe if you like this video, because if you like this video and I get more attention on this, I will do this with more nations. You know, it's a very fun subject to actually do. Obviously, it's not perfect, the graphics and stuff, but, you know, it's doable. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I see you guys on the next one. So, subscribe, be a member, be a patron, and I see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys. See you.